All right, moving on. Before we get into the Sunday Night Football, I want to bring up a quick thing that we forgot to do before our Saturday slate. But just want to talk playoff picture a little bit. It's really shaping up. Again, the AFC, there's a lot of question marks with this one because that number one seed isn't yet confirmed. Because Kansas City has one more win over Buffalo, but Buffalo has one less game. Buffalo does hold a tiebreaker over Kansas City, and that game's not going to be rescheduled between Buffalo and Cincinnati. There's no chance. So it's going to be interesting what they do with that number one seed in the AFC. But in regards to that, the only team that there is, I guess, if you're going to talk the AFC North, still technically is yet to be undecided because Cincinnati, as we all know, played one less game, but they are still a game ahead of Baltimore. So I think Cincinnati is going to take the NFC North. The AFC North. It will be interesting to see what if like Cincinnati loses and Baltimore wins, what happens. They do play each other, which I guess makes it easy enough. But if Baltimore wins that game, there's going to be a question mark of who actually wins that division. But that's a thing for another day. In regards to the playoff wild card, there are a couple teams in contention here. We have the Patriots at 8-8, the Dolphins at 8-8, and Pittsburgh at 8-8. Every other team's already decided, but those three teams are fighting for the last spot. I believe Miami just lost to the Patriots last week. So I'm not too sure who those three teams play.
I believe it's the Patriots play the Bills,
Okay.
Dolphins play the Jets, and Pittsburgh plays Cleveland.
Okay. So all very, very, not they're winnable games, but they are going to be a pretty big contest. So that final wild card spot in the AFC is up for grabs. In regards to the NFC, the reason I wanted to say this before we got into our Sunday Night Football talk is because the NFC final wild card spot is in jeopardy on Sunday Night Football. So quick summary. The whole NFC is locked up besides that wild card spot, and there's three teams fighting for it in Seattle, Detroit, and Green Bay. Detroit and Green Bay, we'll talk about in a second, play on Sunday night at Green Bay for the in a divisional game. Now, if Green Bay wins that game, they automatically get into the playoff as a final wild card spot, doesn't matter what Seattle does, just because they have more, I believe, conference wins than Seattle does. I don't think they play each other head to head. Now, if Detroit wins against Green Bay, but Seattle wins in their 4:00 game, Seattle makes it because they hold the tiebreaker over Detroit. Now, if Seattle loses, Detroit wins, Detroit now gets into the playoffs. We're in a three-team conundrum here where pretty much Green Bay holds all decision, but obviously Seattle plays before them, so we'll know, what happens if Seattle wins that game. Now, I really hope, I'm sure you can see with Ethan's hat and Ethan's background, we're huge Lions fans. So we're the biggest Rams fan, not only for draft stock. Well, it's not going to affect the draft stock, but draft. And now we need the Rams to beat Seattle for Detroit to even have a chance. But so that's the playoff implications. Do you have anything to add before we get into that Sunday night preview?
Yeah, so I'll just add one thing. Like you mentioned, it doesn't seem likely that the Bills-Bengals game will get replayed. So yeah, just crazy amount of things happening in the AFC. You sent me an article this morning of, possible things they could do, including one of them was an 8-team playoff for both teams with no buys, which is extremely intriguing to us Lions fans because that would make the Sunday night game a standalone win and you're in, regardless of what happens down in Seattle. So it's extremely intriguing. I'm at this point really hoping for that. And honestly, it kind of seems like the most fair way to go about this, just with as little research as I've done. Obviously, the NFL is, spending all day, every day at this point trying to figure out what to do here. But it would just, it'd be awesome for the Lions-Packers game to be a win and you're in playoff scenario. So hopefully that's the way they go. But yeah, I think this game is going to be interesting based on how that game in Seattle goes if there's still a 17 playoff.
Yeah. And yeah, Ethan said possibly 18 playoff, which means they would have to do that in the NFC just to make it fair. There's also stuff with making no home field throughout the playoffs in the AFC, which would give, if the Chiefs do get out one seed, to give them a disadvantage. Um, so yeah, there's a lot to be determined, but there's still, regardless of what happens, um, the NFC is going to be crazy, especially that Sunday night game. So with that being said, let's get into Sunday night. Currently, the Lions are a 4.5 point dog at Lambeau Field in Green Bay. The over under, I believe, is 49 and a half, something like that. So I'll start with this one. There's a lot depending on this game. So if the NFL, they will have to come up with a decision before this game starts. But if they do make an 18 playoff, I love Detroit plus 4.5. If so, that means winning, get in. I believe even if the Packers lose, I think they still get in. I think they're in regardless. So if it's an 18 playoff and all the Lions have to do is win, and then the Packers just can win or lose, it doesn't matter. I love the Lions in that scenario. Now, if they keep it as is, and all the Packers have to do is win that game to get in, I am all over the Packers. There's no way Aaron Rodgers is gonna let the Detroit Lions, who he's played his whole career, beat him at home and ruin his playoff chances. So with that being said, I think they're going to keep it I'm going to go against it. I think they're going to keep it 7 teams in the playoffs, and I think Seattle is going to win, um, which would just ruin the Lions' hope. And then I think the Lions. God, now I'm contradicting myself because if that happens, the Lions are just playing the spoiler there. Um, Shit, I don't know. I obviously don't have a bet for this game. I want to take Green Bay really much. I I like Rodgers in that, having that power to determine his fate. But God, Detroit has been a spoiler team these last couple of weeks, and I wouldn't be surprised if they just wreck shit up. But yeah, I have no bet. I'm putting my hands up, no bet right now. Too much on the line. Over under, I would lean over if I had to choose. Green Bay has really scored. They scored 47 or 41 against Minnesota last week. Lions are putting up numbers in the 40s. Defensively, Lions are crap. Steelers or Packers are decently a defensive team, but I would lean the over if you want to bet from me. But in regards to the point spread, there's too much that needs to be decided for me to make an educated guess on this game.
Yep. So I kind of have quite a bit to say on this game. Um, so yeah, if there were an 18 playoff, let's just say, Green Bay would need to win this game if Seattle wins. If Seattle wins, they would go to 9-8. Both these teams would be 8-8. So the winner of this game would move on,
Okay.
just based off record. So it would be a true when you're in playoff game right there. So, but we can't assume there's going to be 18 playoff. So we'll stick with, as of right now, it looks like there's still going to be a 17 playoff. So yeah, this game, it's really just weird. I mean, it's right now it's a placeholder. The line is, if you notice, Green Bay is a minus 230 money line play, which correlates more like a minus 6.5 favorite, rather than the 4.5. So if you like Green Bay, I'd recommend getting in right now. I actually took Green Bay before last week's game at -3. Um, Kind of happy I have that now. I don't love the 4.5 quite as much. But this game, the line's going to shift based on the Seahawks game. So I don't think it gets too much further down for Green Bay. I think it can only go in Detroit's um, favor as far as getting more points with Detroit. So if you like Detroit, I would just sit and wait. I think it gets up to 6.5. Kind of almost regardless with what happens in Seattle, because like you said, if Seattle loses, then Detroit's um, playing for a spot, which I guess could drive the line down, but I think that gives Green Bay more motivation if it's a true, win and we can eliminate our divisional opponent. Um, if Seattle wins, then Detroit might try to play spoiler. So it's just interesting. I don't think you can really bet this game right now until after that Seahawks game, and then after the NFL comes out with what they're going to end up doing for the playoff. Um, but yeah, just weird that Vegas is telling you with that money line they do think Green Bay is going to win. So you are getting value right now in the 4.5, I guess is what I can say for this game. Um, yeah, like I said, I do have Green Bay -3. I'll be rooting for Detroit. I hope Detroit can make it in, but Yeah, I'm pretty high on Green Bay right now. I've been on the last 3 weeks. They've come through for me. Each of the last three. And last week that was my biggest wager of the NFL season on Green Bay. Absolutely loved them. And then I had planned to roll some of that over onto their money line this week. So I might end up doing that still. We'll see. But at 2:30, it's kind of tough. So yeah, it's tough. I kind of just rambled on there, but I wouldn't touch this game until after the Seahawks game and after the NFL decides what they're going to do. Um, unless you really like Green Bay, I think 4.5 is probably about as low as it gets.
Yeah, I have them written down at Green Bay money line as one of my plays that, as I said, I have a lot of money line favorites that I do like this weekend. Um, so we'll keep an asterisk on that. Again, I think waiting till after that game, or if you want to wait before, but just wait till after the NFL makes a decision or after the Seahawks game, because there's just too many emotions to be in this game to not know the implications of what's going to happen in the future. So yeah, I think it's better to wait a little bit unless you just want to quickly jump on, Green Bay right now because it might go up a little bit. But yeah, I think that's for me, it's a stand on game. Just gonna wait. I'm in no rush for that game. But yeah, so that's our Sunday night preview. Again, super exciting for us Lions fan. This is really typical for us. The whole season they sucked, turned it on at the end of the year, got us back entertained. Now they have the chance to make the playoffs. And if history repeats itself, they'll screw it up. But yeah, at least we have that excitement. We have that Sunday night. Yeah,
We kind of got screwed by the league in the scheduling spot, which is
yeah,
par for the course for Detroit. I mean, Sunday night game in Lambeau, not ideal to go
yeah.
try to lock up a playoff spot. But
And good thing we have the tiebreakers over all the wrong teams that don't even matter. But we don't
right,
have the tiebreaker over Seattle, so that just works out. But
right.
that's typical Lions luck.